Welcome, everyone, to the Salt Lake Expositor, where we feature Randy Watt's 50,000 watt station, Momonomo, and my 1,200 fledgling watt station, Latter-day the Digest. And Jessica Franco joins us from the middle of America, we'll say.
How many watts are you, Jessica?
Jessica just does watch power, not watch power.
I don't know.
She got her Facebook. So, Randy, what have you been doing lately?
Well, Gene, I have been very busy between YouTube and TikTok, responding to comments and questions. I just discovered that on YouTube, there's a little thing that says notifications and a little bell thing. And when you click on those, it's all the comments that people make about our videos after we posted them. And so, yeah, I stay really busy, and I'm pleased to get about 10 new followers a day on my TikTok channel and trying to respond to them. I'll tell you what, it is keeping me busy, which is good because an idle mind is the devil's workshop, and I am Momonomo. And yes, Kim, I try to match everything up every day. So thank you for noticing.
And the glasses.
And the glasses. Yep. I've got to be fashion forward.
So we'd like to thank Randy last week for doing the show. And Jessica was traveling and I was traveling. I had a hard time getting internet connected and stuff like that and popped on for a second. But Randy had to do the whole thing. So thanks, Randy.
Oh, you're welcome. It was really scary.
And Jessica, where did you travel last week and where are you this week?
Yeah, tell us about that.
So last week I was in New York. So that was actually the weekend the blizzard hit. So I was thinking I could still join the show because time-wise it would have worked, but our flight was canceled 3 times. And then supposedly we were to go back home on Wednesday, which we have children, that was not an option. So we literally got a rental car and kind of were driving away from the blizzard just in the nick of time. And the other funny thing is like that Saturday, we went to Central Park and it was like sunny and blue sky. And I was like, I think they're overdoing this. I don't think there is a blizzard coming because it was so bizarre. Like a nice Saturday and then Sunday night, it hit them, right? I mean, by then we were out. But I was like, that's crazy. Like you could have not seen it coming.
Sometimes nothing changes like the weather.
Yes, exactly. Right. So thank you for all the technologies we have now that people get, warned at time or early enough to make adjustments. So that was quite an experience, but we got, escaped in time.
We're glad that you did, because what would we be without you?
The German in the South.
And where are you going in, was it next week?
Yeah, so this coming Friday, we have spring break in Texas, and we're going as a family down under to Australia.
That is so cool.
Yeah, we're excited. Never been. We've been close.
Yeah. So, Randy, you had something you wanted to talk about just before we ran for the first clip, or?
I did want to do just a quick update. We did an expositor show regarding the shooting at the LDS chapel with the funeral service and the Tongan members. Well, the police have located and arrested 2 of the suspects, and they've been charged.
Okay.
So just a little update. It's still going, but at least they're making progress on who done it. And that's about it. I mean, today, we're getting into a topic that is so extremely important and unfortunately so common in the church, and you probably have already guessed it. It's It's the child SA that goes on a regular basis. And you know what? There's all kinds of organizations where this is a problem. Where the Mormon Church really stands out is they get rid of the stories, sweep them under the carpet, and put the perpetrator back into positions where they can go ahead and assault all they want. It's a never-ending, circuitous problem that the church has.
Or at minimum, put other people at risk.
You're right.
Yeah, it's almost like I want to say now that I'm out and deconstructed, it's also the other side is keeping the members naive enough, not educated about sexuality, where you're almost breeding the victims, not just the perpetrators. You also breed the victims because they don't know how to talk about sex. They're uncomfortable anything sex, even if it's a healthy way, which also leads into BYU and honor code, right? They can't, well, for a long time, they couldn't even differentiate, like, what do we do with people who have consensual sex? Because they treated them the same way than rape or not. So either way, it was not good and a really toxic system.
So Randy.
And either way, it seems to always be the victim's responsibility rather than the perpetrator. And we're going to get into that today. We have several clips to show you.
Yeah.
So I first saw that Mormon Stories did a show where they brought in somebody from the past talking about when Wade Christofferson was first excommunicated, and we'll be covering that. But Randy, you wanted to start with let's start with the news item.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you how your week went and how are you feeling after your procedure?
Gene, so yeah, it's been 3.5 weeks now. It's still my mouth is still sore. The swelling gums won't be better till like a month from now, but I'm managing it.
Okay.
And things are going okay.
Oh, great. And this is a vasectomy, right? Oh no, it's dental. Dental procedure. I'm cracking myself up.
Yeah. A trisectomy.
Here you go.
Oh dear. Okay. Well, anyway, let's get started with this quick newscast. Maybe you've seen it before, maybe not.
Welcome to ABC4 News at 5. I'm Brian McElhatton.
And I'm Sarah Murphy. Glad to have you here with us. We begin tonight with this. The brother of a top leader in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is in police custody here in Utah, accused of child sex crimes.
Our Jordan Tracy is live with what we know so far, Jordan.
Well, Brian and Sarah, the FBI tells us Wade Christofferson, who we've learned is the brother of President D. Todd Christofferson, counselor of the First Presidency, is facing at least 20 charges around child sexual abuse.
Charging documents accuse Christofferson of abusing a child in Dublin, Ohio, when they were between 7 and 8 years old. He's accused of abusing the child 15 to 20 times. Another charge accuses him of talking with a second minor victim over FaceTime and sending coded letters to her home in Utah. Search history from Christofferson also reportedly revealed searches for criminal defense attorneys for sex crimes in Columbus, Ohio, and if in Ohio, do clergy have to report child abuse confessions?
Now, guys, he is expected to be extradited back to Ohio. At last check, he is still currently on the roster for inmates in the Salt Lake County Jail. We'll be continuing to follow this all night long, but for now, I'll send it back to you.
And so that was a few weeks ago, and we just wanted to update everybody. I don't know if there's any other updates other than he's in Ohio and going through the court system.
He is in prison at this moment.
Our hope, my hope in particular, is that the FBI investigates this. It's across state lines. It's all, and they wonder why, and they ask questions of what did D. Todd Christofferson know, and when did he know it, and what did the Mormon Church know, and when did they know as a leadership, right? And so some of today's story goes back 30 years. When Wade Christofferson was first excommunicated. Right. And Randy, you're going to get another clip. Can you set up your The
Oh,
next
I'm
clip
I'm set up. I'm
okay.
set up. Um,
Tee it up and then knock it out of the park.
yeah, let's just take a look at some of the comments. I have to recognize Jessica for sending a great deal of information. She is an amazing researcher, and she finds the tea and she spills it. So thank you, Jessica.
Since we can't drink tea now, right? We have to.
Exactly. So so here's our first slide that kind of wanted to show. Gene, would you be able to read that for us?
Let's see. So there's a church statement. Abuse of any kind is not tolerated in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Is a subject of intense ongoing debate with critics, including survivors and legal professionals, arguing that it is contradicted by institutional practices and the handling of abuse cases. While the church publicly asserts a zero tolerance policy and has implemented measures to combat abuses, numerous reports and lawsuits have alleged failures to protect victims, and at times a priority of protecting the institution's reputation is always at stake.
Thank you. What do you think, Jessica?
Well, there are two things, right? First of all, we heard this in Mormon Stories in the interview that he was saying that was always the primary goal is the good name of the church, which is just so disheartening and so on the wrong horse they're setting. But it just got to me, you know, with Floodlit, they're so active and collecting all those datas. This like every time the church, all they would say is like, we have zero tolerance. We don't allow abuse in the church or whatever they're saying is, right? But it's almost like, yeah, no shit, dipshit. Who says we're cool with abuse? So it's kind of, it's a nonsensical starter where like, yeah, isn't that what everybody assumes anyway? And that's all you have to say over and over, repeating that sentence, which on the other hand, would at least be helpful if it's true and you could show they're really doing all they can. But then we see over and over the pattern. I think I lost everybody. We see the pattern of the church not really caring. Again, they're caring about their reputation, but that's really where this ends, the zero tolerance. And they're not on the side of the victims, which if people were listening to that Mormon Stories, the guy who was a high councilman and was part even 30 years ago said there was nobody representing the victims. Nobody was saying how can we help them? How did they feel? What actually did go down? It was just like, I mean, literally a sausage fest, right? I mean, it was like 12 high councilmen, the state presidency, and Wade Christofferson, not even his wife, right? If I'm correct.
I think you are 100% correct. You know, luckily, all of the leaders of the church are forthright and would never do anything this type of crime. Luckily, when a leader is suspected of it, the church comes out and lets everybody know so they can protect the members. Not
exactly.
It's not just a problem with the general membership. It's a problem with the leadership, the apostles, their relatives. Let me just share a quick statement here. It says the son of President Thomas S. Monson was arrested for soliciting a prostitute, found liable for workplace sexual harassment, but was still afterwards made a bishop in 2008 of a singles ward. This is the same year his dad, Thomas S. Monson, became president of the church. No coincidence, I'm sure.
Never.
The now infamous Curtin McConkie. Wow. So
Well,
it
and
sounds
all,
like you get benefits and perks if you are a child SA perpetrator.
Exactly. And there's two sides even, right? So the Thomas Monson's son was arrested for a prostitute who also was, I believe, underage. She was 19. And then he also had a lawsuit where a colleague said that he assaulted her in the law firm that he was working. So his career as a lawyer would have been over. But what did daddy do? come to the church law firm. We'll take you anyways. And he had a career, right? I mean, that's just so pathetic. And it's just enabling abuser. That's the opposite of saying zero tolerance. That's a lot of tolerance.
That's disgusting.
Exactly.
I just think it's really sad. And
Exactly.
it's not an isolated case. Gene, do you have anything you want to say before I put the next slide up?
No, I'll just wait until we start on, like, if we're going to do some John DeLynn clips or whatever.
Yeah, we're going to get to that case here in a little while. But right now, we're kind of emphasizing how this is so widespread, not just amongst the members, but like I said, amongst the leaders. Here's another example. And I don't know, can you read that, Jessica, or is it too small?
Yeah. No, I can read it. Some may say your statement is too harsh. I say it is too soft. The church actively protects and promotes child sex abusers. Data point 4, David McConkie was promoted to stake president after confessing to child sexual abuse. Data point 5, Sterling Van Wagenen was kept on as a BYU professor and hired to direct the church's temple endowment videos after confessing to child sexual abuse. Data point 6, Kevin Garn confessed to naked hot tapping with a 15-year-old minor who was in his Sunday school class he taught. Garn's bishop acted as intermediary in paying off hush money and securing an NDA from the girl, and the mostly Mormon Utah legislature famously gave him a standing ovation after his confession.
Wow. Like I said, it sounds like there's perks to being a child SA.
And there's a pattern. And there's a pattern, right?
Annoying insiders.
Exactly. And the Van Wagen guy, that was one of my big cracks when I deconstructed, because the temple is so holy, and he made those videos, and again the church quietly put the videos away when they learned that what he did. But if the church is inspired, and this is an inspired video because it's the endowment movies he did, right? And you don't even have the backbone to say, we have a reason to put them away because unfortunately this is a really bad person. And you just pretend like, hush, it's gone. We do PowerPoint now in your holy of holiest buildings, then you're the scum of the earth. That really shocked me too. That was a big thing when I read about his story. And I think he'd abused a boy and a girl, right? So it was just where I'm like, what? And they're just away with it. Endowment movie. Like, this is the most important thing in that story.
Why do you think they cover up these things instead of bringing them to the surface?
Because it makes the church look bad.
Yeah, they're protecting their precious.
And I think, it makes the church look bad. But if, like, that's how I grew up, it would be just some few apples. It would have been make the church look good. But I think the problem is they know it's a massive problem. It's not just some bad apples.
It sure is.
That's my, opinion.
Yeah. Gene, would you mind reading that?
It says, I'm an ex-bishop in Utah, and we had an abuse case with a scout leader, and young boy happened while I was in. The mother called me. When she found out what happened, I told her to call the police. I then called the hotline and was lectured about making sure I call the hotline first in the future. The church cares infinitely more about the good name of the institution over the victim and isn't really close. It is the straw that broke the camel's back for me. Whoever that ex-bishop was.
Man.
And we know Sam Young, right? He was a bishop who cared for the children, and that broke his back. And he was excommunicated. That's the other interesting thing.
For what? What was he excommunicated for? For trying to protect the kids. For trying to, keep the bishops from getting pervertedly personal in these interviews with him.
Well, and if you want to make it like really drastic, you could almost say, so the devil cares more for the children, right? He was excommunicated for apostasy. So the devil cares more to protect the children than your Mormon God? That seems a little backwards to me.
Right? Yep. Well, we're kind of on a roll with these quotes. So I have.
But Jessica, tell me more where you got these quotes.
So I literally was just so upset with that church kind of statement every single time. Zero tolerance, we don't allow it. So I literally just Googled like, what's the issue with that statement? And then I came across like people sharing those thoughts that they were saying, this is just a statement. It's unfortunately very hollow. And that's just my nature. I go down the rabbit hole and you see all those comments. I mean, I just picked some, seriously, there were like dozens, I mean, hundreds, but it's so infuriating that also from all kind of life, right? Like this was an ex-bishop, but there were mothers and fathers and uncles and people who experience it, victims themselves, who keep saying the same narrative. They don't listen to us as victims, or we supposed to forgive, and the perpetrator moves on.
So true. One of those who has something to say about this is Danica Hoyle, or Danica. Is it Hoyle?
We'll see.
Yeah, Danica Hoyle. That's right. I wasn't sure on the pronunciation of her last name. I follow her, and she's got a lot of great videos. But let me share this one with you.
In Utah pled a cop and school resource officer in Utah pled guilty to possessing child sexual abuse material and the forcible sexual abuse of an infant, and he was given 30 days in jail. A cop placed at a school charged with the attempted sexual exploitation of a child was given, depending on the month, not even a month after the judge, a woman, said that he was a very decorated and respected law enforcement officer. And all of this, still not even the crazy part. They tried arguing that the reason he had all of this child sexual abuse material is that it was evidence in a CSAM investigation that he volunteered to store at his home. I'm sorry, are you storing all of the other evidence from all of your other cases at your home? Why don't you, I don't know, store it where everything else is, at the fucking precinct? Oh, I could just take it home with me and store it in my garage, as a favor. Are you fucking kidding me? That is complete bullshit. But even if I set that down for a second, he was still charged with the forcible sexual abuse of an infant child. What about that? Well, Colton Johansson will be spending 30 days in jail and then will likely be on the streets as a police officer again very soon.
Are you kidding me?
It's really, I mean, you're speechless, right? I mean, there's just so much words you have and so much pain you can take in. That's the unfortunate truth about Mormonism is it's so, I mean, I hate sometimes to say it, but it's so much in the core and enwrapped in their history of abuse, coercion, taking advantage of children.
Unbelievable. And what do they get? 30 days?
Yeah, that's a joke. I mean, that's just disrespectful to every victim out there, and especially a child and their parents.
What do you think, Gene, about how do the prophets feel about this?
They dig it. They have their second anointing. They know that they're untouchable as far as the second coming or the next life. And that's really a harmful and damaging position to be in, thinking that you can sin all you want and nothing is going to affect you.
And thinking that lying is okay, right? I mean, it seems to be always the fallback. Let's lie about it. I mean, Joseph Smith started it. Let's lie about polygamy, right? It's always like, let's lie. Let's see if we get away with it.
Whatever it takes to keep, like Gene said, to keep that precious reputation going.
And we're going through
Yes.
all these because it's the systemic sort of position of the church to cover things up and do things. And so it's just more evidence of all these things happening.
Yeah. So many of you know Peggy Fletcher Stack. She contributed this, how outdated Mormon teachings may be aiding and abetting rape culture. Outdated Mormon teachings that place much of the blame on women are tough to quash, even if the church officially has changed its attitude. Better dead clean than alive unclean. That Mormon mantra apparently was ringing in a young Brigham Young University student's mind in 1979 as she leapt from a would-be attacker's car on the freeway.
Yeah, and this goes to the same thing we were talking about Elizabeth Smart. She felt because once she had been damaged, that she wasn't really worthy anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
And she couldn't, it made it almost impossible for her to escape, but she finally did.
Wow.
Yes.
Um,
And also I just also want to always add, like, yes, the weakest people in the system are the women, but those statements make it very, very complicated for boys as well, because they have this weird thing of, okay, if a man, in Boy Scouts especially, right, are abusing them, they're still also in Mormonism, both genders should be virgins, right? Like no sex before marriage. So they also get this like, wow, now I'm not worth anymore anything because somebody took advantage of me. But you have the whole weird aspect of that was same gender, right? So I just want to say, even though, yes, that's true with women, I think this makes it also very, very, very toxic for boys as well.
Well, and who came up with this? It wasn't the members. It wasn't any agencies. It was the leaders of the church. As a matter of fact, here's one example of one of the apostles that I will play for you. This is Richard G. Scott talking about victims of sexual assault.
Adversity, even when caused willfully by others' unrestrained appetite, can be a source of growth when viewed from the perspective of eternal principle. The victim must do all in his or her power to stop the abuse. Most often, the victim is innocent because of being disabled by fear or the power or authority of the offender. At some point in time, however, the Lord may prompt a victim to recognize a degree of responsibility for abuse. Your priesthood leader will help you assess your responsibility so that if needed, it can be addressed. Otherwise, the seeds of guilt will remain and sprout into bitter fruit. Yet no matter what degree of responsibility, from absolutely none to increasing consent, the healing power of the atonement of Jesus Christ can provide a complete cure. Forgiveness can be obtained for all involved in abuse.
Nice. What does that tell you, Gene?
Yeah, blaming the victim.
Right? Make them feel guilty.
Yes.
Yeah.
But also, it seems like I feel like this message is saying there is an equal power, like as if every woman could overcome every man. But then even take it away from that, what chance does a child has to defend of an adult? Like you're pretending there's an equal power balance. There's an equal of literally your body, right? So he's pretending victims always have the chance, if they could, to get away. And why wouldn't you? This is such a toxic, absurd victim blaming, where you almost like, have you thought more than a second about this? Like, what are you actually telling all those children who we know by 90% get abused by a family member or somebody they know? It's not the stranger, right? So what are you saying? Is this victim supposed to do or able to do.
Yeah. You know who else said this was Spencer W. Kimball, when he said, once given or taken or stolen, it can never be regained. It is better to die in defending one's virtue than to live having lost it without a struggle. I think it was in the The Strength of Youth pamphlet, when it was this you, Jessica, that writes that it was in the Young Women's pamphlet. You know, he would rather see someone fight, apparently, and even if they lose their life, it's better than losing their virtue.
Right. And the last sentence, right? I wonder if it's still in there. That's Mormonism at its peak. You never know what changed because they will never denounce it officially. So when people say, oh, Jesse, this is such an old quote, this is a dead apostle. First of all, that always remains truth. Once an apostle or prophet, whatever they say stays. And they never denounced it. So if, let's say, this is untrue and the church came around, then where is the official statement that this was bullshit? I haven't found anything to the contrary.
Randy's trying to install a bullshit meter in conference, so maybe someday. Randy,
again, the ex-Mormons uplifting the church.
Randy, we can't hear you.
It's probably better that you can't.
Yeah, so this victim blaming, I remember people saying, oh, what was she doing in that place at that time? What was she wearing? All these other things. And nothing that removes, all that stuff removes from the perpetrator all their responsibilities to do things. Like, they can't help it. And I was thinking about, like, the women in the Bible. Half of them are always looked down upon. The adulteress, the Jezebel, all these things, you know. Whoever it was that cut, what's his name's hair? Who's the guy that?
Ted Bundy?
No, in the Bible.
Oh, in the Bible. Oh,
Samson,
yeah,
Delilah.
Oh, yeah,
right?
yeah.
Delilah.
Women in the Bible are like, the men are all pure and apostles and prophets and everything, and the women are 50-50, whether they're Jesus' mom or a harlot.
Yep.
Delilah.
Those are not good examples as well.
Well, and the thing is, take it out of the women context, right? Take it, you know, when people say, what was she wearing? Was she asking for it? Was she in the wrong location? What do you do with a child? What do you do with a boy? So if his Boy Scout leader abused him, what was he wearing? Was he asking for it? Was he in the wrong location? He was camping with the Boy Scouts? And a child, like, what? Was it wearing something wrong when it was 3, 4, or 5 years old? Those questions only kind of exist because we think of attractive women, because I can even spin it for women. So if I'm an overweight woman, is that really still in the issue? Is it just for the pretty young skinny ones, right? So that's where it's just such a stupid question, and not asking, why did somebody rape? Why did somebody harm others? That's the real questions we should ask, nothing else.
And it's painful that some of these victims don't feel like they can come forward because they harbor this sense of guilt because they are victims of this assault.
Because they question themselves, right? They're asking, what did I do wrong? Nothing. The answer is nothing, because unfortunately an asshole crossed your life.
Yeah.
Period.
A good example of this is her name is Rhonda Stapley. She was victimized by Ted Bundy. And she said, nobody would ever know what had happened to me. I felt ashamed and embarrassed and stupid for getting into such a dangerous situation. Everybody knows you're not supposed to take rides with strangers, and people will think, well, why did you do that? And I thought my mom would make me come home and drop out of school, and I thought my career would be over and that people that loved me would treat me differently. Well, that's a shame.
Yes.
She didn't feel like she could even come forward.
Yeah, but again, because she was questioning her behavior. She was, like Faust said, Where was my part in it? And that's the evil thing, right? Like when victims have to think about what is my part in it? Nothing. You did nothing wrong. It's an absolute monster. I mean, especially with Ted Bundy, we know it, right? I mean, and then even look into, I mean, if anyone want to go down that rabbit hole, Ted Bundy got baptized in the Mormon Church. His ward wrote cards when he was in prison. They even went to the courtroom to support him, and the missionaries who baptized him were also in the courtroom if they needed to testify what a wonderful character he is, because they had no fucking clue, no gift of discernment. They were backing Ted Bundy. And then later we learned serial killer.
So let's let Dave pontificate a little bit on the points that we brought up, and while Randy's getting the next few clips ready.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot to say. I do agree with Jessica on like how do you like really pin that on a child? That's kind of weird. What was I going to say? Yeah, the police officer only got 30 days in jail. I would have thought he would get more, because that, like, in most police forces, like I grew up in Minneapolis and they're very corrupt, like, but even like then, like it's seen as like you made everyone look bad, and so they throw the book at you like hard. And in some cases we'll even like make up charges to like bring down that cop to like prove a point.
Wow.
To cut out the cancer, so to speak.
Yeah. But I mean, you know, I personally have always encouraged my like lady friends to like take self-defense classes, and you know, it's better my view, because I mean I come from like a pretty abusive background. I've been essayed myself, and I've been homeless and addicted to opioids, and it's my mentality has always been it's better to be judged by 12 than carried by 6.
True.
So, you know, if you gotta put down a potential threat, don't hesitate.
Yep.
I like that. Yeah.
That's what Elizabeth Smart does, right? She gives official defense classes because that helped her overcome her trauma and feeling more in power.
Yeah. I mean, like, I'm going to try and word this in a very specific way because I don't want Gene to get demonetized. But ladies, if you are listening, it's 3 pounds of localized pressure to disable a wrist, 5 pounds of localized pressure to disable a femur. The throat area, if you crush it, asphyxiation occurs in 3 minutes and 30 seconds. And the third spinal cord, the third vertebra down, if that is damaged, it's instant death. Just in case you get in a situation like that.
Well, and you know, that's good information, Dave. Thank you. Although so many times when you're being attacked physically, you don't have time to react, and but let me tell you another tip, Dave, in addition to that, because as a police officer, I used to teach an anti-rape class. And one of the methods that I would teach is if a man is going to assault you and you're an adult, or, you know, you can learn this. But if a man is going to assault you, he has to have himself exposed. And the best thing that you can do is go along, act like you're going to go along with it. And once he exposes himself, you reach down and grab his testicles and you just twist as hard as you can. And I guarantee you that will end that right off the bat. But whether
I'll say maybe instead of any other specific defense training, everybody go online and get your own training.
Other advice is available.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there. So instead of Randy giving a demonstration of any more things.
That's hilarious, Gene. Step over here. Let me show you what I'm talking about.
Oh my God.
I think
let's bring up the clip that you have. And
well, let's ask you to just kind of briefly once again go over what we're gonna look at now.
John DeLynn brought on somebody that had experience with Wade Christofferson from 30 years ago, and he went on Mormon Stories and he shared his story, and it's pretty amazing, if you think about it, and the guilt that he feels for his part, because he didn't know. He was new in the church. He had access to all this information, but he was told to be quiet about it, and he felt, looking back, the victim probably didn't get any help. That the other people in the future were subject to potential risk because of the behavior of the church. And the church told people another story about what the offense was, so much that they were like putting out bad information to cover up things. And people should go to Mormon Stories and watch the whole interview. There's not a lot of new or extra information, but it is, an eyewitness account of how the church covers things up.
Well, we actually did have brand new information, and that was, well, I'll let you listen to this right now. He was a member of the Stake High Council who sat in on the disciplinary council of Wade. This was the first time, although, like I said, we had new things come to light. Mainly the fact that the church lied about why he was excommunicated.
Before he came to the court in 96, it had been going on for 11 years.
Yeah.
At that time.
And that's what we know in the mental health field generally about child abusers is it's very resistant to treatment.
Mm-hmm.
A heavy majority of child abusers become repeat offenders.
Sure.
It often becomes a lifelong habit or a set of behaviors. And so that's why
it's kind of like an addiction.
It's an addiction.
Yeah.
And it's not something that is treatable by the atonement, by belief in Jesus, generally speaking. To just say church discipline plus the atonement is what child abusers need, keep it quiet. All you're doing is allowing a wolf to consume more children as sexual prey.
Right.
When you rely on the atonement and church discipline along with secrecy, and you don't turn them into the police, and you don't give them a legal record, and you don't make it broadly known in the families and in the wards and in the stakes, you're literally just allowing a fox to continue consuming the metaphorical chickens in the henhouse to protect the good name of the church and to protect the church from lawsuits.
Any comments on that before I go to the next?
Yeah,
Yeah. So
you could go first, and then I'll go next.
Yeah. So it's just a clip from the show, and it shows where the church just sticks their, I don't know, what do you call it when they just do the wrong thing over and over again? I don't know what it is, but that's all I have to say. It just shows.
Yeah, I find it fascinating because there's a huge disconnect in my anecdotal experience of how the leadership handles this and how the average member handles this, because the leadership will sweep it under the rug. Now, in my ward in Provo, and even like in the ward radio Discord, I can think of 10 different people who I could call or reach out to because they're combat veterans and very bored, and they will just take care of it quietly. They wouldn't even go to the police. Not advocating for any violence, but just my personal experience is the average member that I met will take the law into their own hands. The leadership does a complete opposite. And to me, that's just weird.
Well, it's pretty damn weird.
I think what kind of, to me, showed again, which is also a Mormon pattern, is the secrecy. It's always secret. The temple is secret. Those excommunication councils are secrets. And I think he described even more in detail in a different time of that interview. And I asked my husband too, is like, he's right. Like all those 12 high councilmen swore secrecy, that no information in this room will leave this room. So then you were incapable, even as a man who's in there, if you feel like maybe we should do something more. Like he said, I was a Mormon. I thought like, well, I mean, I can't because I swore secrecy. And then when you look even in the Book of Mormon, the bad guys are the ones with the secret combinations. It's so funny how we always do the bad things. It's like the big building, how the arrogant people, and then we building temples, and secret combinations are bad, and we doing tons of secret combinations right and left. But in, this maybe a little dark humor, but I mean, bad things thrive in secrecy. And the Mormon church is literally built on secrecy. So, I mean, like, wow, surprise, surprise, shit goes down.
Jessica,
I can't.
It's not.
Go ahead.
It's not secret. It's sacred.
Yeah. Apparently. We just switching words how we want to, right? And skin is now just like the aura, right? Skin doesn't mean skin anymore either.
Yeah, black skin. The skin of blackness is now something else.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
I just can't help but laugh when Jessica brought that up, because literally the next phrase that these people would say that I've talked to, and we've even talked about this because in Provo things have happened and discussions happen, right? Even then we all kind of, like, the people at my ward, when we were talking about this, be like, okay, if this ever happens here, we know what to do. Don't tell the bishop. Nothing leaves this conversation. Like what happens in, what happens in this little room that we're in stays in this room. Don't tell the bishop.
Well, and they need to coordinate their lies to mislead the members of the church and avoid the real reason that someone's excommunicated. Here's an example.
And another interesting aspect was I liked how John really hammered it down that you cannot help those people, right? This hope of if they repent, right, or if they even would get help. No, there is no help. Unfortunately, not unfortunately, whatever. But pedophiles have, I think it's like only 30% are capable of really working it out, but 70% you can't even help. And then a church, an untrained organization, thinks they can help them.
Wow. Crazy. Okay.
Are you ready to go with the video?
It's excommunication, but no one was told why.
Because they have to make sure that, he's not asked to say a prayer or asked to do things he's not supposed to do because of the excommunication. But it was also put forth that it was an extramarital affair.
Okay, wait, a couple things. That, first of all, I'm just shocked. So you're saying that the rumor that he was excommunicated for an extramarital affair was allowed to sort of spread.
Yes.
When you heard that he was excommunicated for adultery, did you say anything? Did you do anything?
What did I say? I was not supposed to say anything.
So you kept your oath of secrecy.
Yes. So the fact that I was a member of the High Council and the fact that, I was given that charge and that responsibility, I took that very seriously. A stake president confirmed in 2024 he knew the church had placed and then rescinded child protection measures against Wade Christofferson.
Yeah, at some point, mid-level and top-level Mormon church leaders would have known about Wade being a child abuser. They would have approved his rebaptism. They would have approved the expunging of his record, and they would have approved him being called into a bishopric at some point. They would have known all that and approved it. In other words, the Mormon church covered up and enabled a child sexual predator to not be found out, and then also to be elevated to further positions of leadership, which would have put him in the position to be influential again, to be able to just repeat his abuse of children, which, as I understand it, he did multiple times later.
Right.
So yes, Randy, you're muted.
Hate when they do that. What gets me the most is that these TBMs who hear this don't care. They don't care.
Or they don't hear.
They're
They
men
don't
of
know
God,
either.
so who am I to even care about it? And they just keep allowing it and allowing it. People need to speak up, which is one of the things that the Salt Lake Expositor is trying to accomplish, is making people aware, making them understand that things aren't what they appear to be. Not all is well in Denmark.
Or Zion.
Or Zion, that's right.
Yeah,
I
it's
think
really disturbing.
I think that just shows how sheltered many are. Not all, but many. Just because, like, of the fact that many don't hear of it in the first place. And then when they do hear about it, it's like out of the blue. And just anecdotally, I've seen that where you'll have TBMs who have good experiences in the church and everything is fine and dandy. And then they see one thing in their feed, or they see one thing. And when you see one thing and you're so wrapped up into any group, it's easy to blow it off, right? It's just like, okay, yeah, that happened. That's a one-off. It'll be taken care of. You know, I think many just don't see the pattern, and I think many just aren't aware of how pervasive it is. And
Exactly.
to some extent, I can kind of understand, because you won't see it unless you go looking for it. And who wants to go looking for child abuse? That's not a fun thing to do. That's not an uplifting thing to do. I don't want to do that with my wife. That's not fun. So,
No.
I can kind of understand why they shelter themselves in that way. Is they want the good, but they don't want to acknowledge the bad.
Well, and even if you don't go looking for it, when you see signs, people tend to turn the other way because, oh, that's none of my business. But it sure as hell is your business.
Yep.
If you see anything that looks a little bit suspicious, speak up. Don't call the church.
Especially in a church that claims to be so family oriented, where the children is your precious and everything. Because if you go in a Catholic church, most of the time there are only adults, right, in cathedrals. So maybe that's a little different. They have their own issues. I'm not saying at all they're any star or model or whatever. But the Mormons claim we absolutely focused on children and family, and then that should be your number one goal, to make them feel safe, and literally not just just having nice talks. And so that's when I think I read somewhere where somebody said pedophiles in the Mormon church should not have the option of rebaptism. And as we know now, Wade Christofferson was rebaptized. Last week, Floodlit reported 2 different brethren, same thing, were in jail for child sex abuse, rebaptized. And we also know rebaptism only can go through the first presidency. So they can't claim either, we didn't know that was local. No. Rebaptism is the first presidency. And so that's the other really dangerous tool the Mormon church has, letting those, what did he say, wolves back into the sheep herd. Sure, we take you back in, but how dare you say something about the organization? We excommunicate you forever, but you abuse children and you just repent and say sorry. Sure, welcome back.
And this is the cover-up part, because if you think about it, he was told to be quiet about it, right? It's secret, it's sacred, it's confidential. We have this hearing, and then all of a sudden, the church, in order to deflect the truth, encourages lying about what he was excommunicated for.
Exactly, which is also so ridiculous. An affair is not, it's also a bad thing. Like almost it's like, it's not as worse, so we go with the affair. And it's almost like, why would you go with another bad lie? And obviously that wouldn't help any victims also, right? It's just a convenient. But I'm wondering, honestly, like his wife, did she not have a question about the affair?
Well, yeah.
Probably not, because this is my experience with Christianity in general. Is like the process of like forgiveness and repentance. Yes, it may vary, But like the whole belief that you could just say sorry
Yeah.
and do that, that's very different than me being a Hindu. And I was going to bring this up also with the sexual purity thing. Like, so in my belief system, religiously, there are cultural aspects, yes, that believe, you know, no sex before marriage, but that's not religious. That's more like specific parts of India. Religiously, it's discouraged, but not a sin. It's not a dharma. It's discouraged because you could be in a situation like me where you have sex to someone you're not married to, then babies happen, and then there's complications of, like, you know, child support and, you know, who raises the kids. And so it's much more practical discouragement, but it's not like punishable, right? It's not like going to give you bad karma. And that's like the whole forgiveness thing is weird to me, because I believe like any action or inaction puts out like a vibration, right? You can't undo that, right? It doesn't matter what it is. Like if you abuse a person, not even a child, but if you abuse a person, you can't undo that. It's out there. The damage is done. One of the things I heard even before I moved to Mongolia was, I think it's a Chinese or Japanese proverb, but it's basically like take a plate, smash it on the floor, and then say sorry. What
Yeah.
changed?
Nothing.
Exactly. Right. You can repair it, but the damage is still visible.
Yeah.
Right.
It's still obviously damaged. You
I know.
can't undo that.
Exactly. I noticed that Hallie Cram mentioned something about why not do background investigations? Why not, you know, and we're going to talk about that right after the last clip, that we need to there. Well, what can we do to help avoid these disgusting sins that are committed within the church and the cover-ups?
I mean, I think the number one is education, right? Because the example was affair versus abuse. So if you don't know the difference between an affair where normally two adults consensually have sex outside of the marriage, to me, even like when I was deconstructing, I wasn't out yet, I was all of a sudden also clicking, why is that an excommunication thing? Because that should be between that couple. Why
Right.
is the bishop?
An affair is not a crime.
Exactly.
Child SA is.
Exactly. And but we treat it the same, right? And back to BYU, same thing. We treat girls and boys at BYU, sexual abuse and sex before marriage is the same thing, but it's not at all. And that's then where harm happens, because we either over punishing somebody for something that's actually quite natural and it should be theirs to deal with, and something that's absolutely harmful and help is needed, but we treat it the same. So nothing is really treated well.
Yeah. Yeah. Just like Hallie just said, you know, they said that he spanked a little girl, you know, which was, he did a hell of a lot more than that.
Yes.
And
Yeah, she was commenting about her ward.
right.
I thought so too. Yeah.
I'm saying, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always a cover up. Everything is secret.
Hallie brings up a good point. Consent.
Exactly.
Why consent is not taught, why other protective things aren't taught. Why
there's no consent in abuse, right? A child can literally never give consent. So consent is something for adults and to people who want to have sexual relations. But when it comes to an adult and a child, there is nothing to give. There's no consent to give or gain, right? So, and that's huge. That needs to be taught. And that's the best protection always, is like educate, talk, because if it's in secret, then it's toxic and will hurt us. But if it's out in the open, then we can talk. We're more also like, kind of like we talked about Elizabeth Smart stuff. If you cannot even talk about it because it's so shameful, then there's only one person who benefits from that, and that's always the abuser, never the victim.
Yeah, so true. Got one more clip here. I don't know. Oh, here we go.
A lot of buttons to push on these shows.
Yeah, there is, and every platform has a different muting button.
Yeah,
So
that's
anyway,
true.
let's try
You're doing
again.
So
great.
even before he came to the court in 96, it had been going on for 11 years
Yeah.
at that time.
And that's what we know in the mental health field generally about child abusers is it's very resistant to treatment.
Mm-hmm.
A heavy majority of child abusers become repeat offenders.
Sure.
It often becomes a lifelong habit or a set of behaviors. And so that's why
It's kind of like an addiction.
it's an addiction.
Yeah.
And it's not something that is treatable by the atonement, by belief in Jesus, generally speaking. To just say church discipline plus the atonement is what child abusers need, keep it quiet, all you're doing is allowing a wolf to consume more children as sexual prey.
Right.
When you rely on the atonement and church discipline along with secrecy, and you don't turn them into the police, and you don't give them a legal record, and you don't make it broadly known in the families and in the wards and in the stakes, you're literally just allowing a fox to continue consuming the metaphorical chickens in the henhouse to protect the good name of the church and to protect the church from lawsuits.
Exactly. So
That was
even
so good, we heard it twice.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I couldn't remember if we had, for some reason I had that down twice, but it was a good message.
It is.
Yeah.
Important.
One thing I do want to address, Jay Castro talked about it's not going to change unless they have to pay money. They are so wealthy.
Yeah.
I don't think they care anymore.
No.
Because I mean, okay, you pay what, 20 million, just as an example, 20 million in a class action lawsuit. Okay, the church liquidates some assets, right? It liquidates some stock, finds a way to make it a tax write-off, and then legally it's over and done with. You can't bring it up again because it's settled.
Exactly.
So it's not like, even then they don't have to, even then it wouldn't matter. And I'm starting to wonder, and I'm going to speculate here, I'm starting to wonder maybe if that's why they're focusing on specific areas of the world, right?
And Jesus.
Well, I mean, yeah, and Jesus, but I mean, because you look at the laws in Africa compared to like America, very, very non-existent practically. And America doesn't even have that good laws to begin with, right? So I can't help but wonder if, like, yeah, there's cultural similarities and it's easier to get in there, and it's easier because, you know, there's a lot of people who want success. You know, like the laws there, okay, they get abusers in the church and then they just move them to Africa because they won't be prosecuted. But even if people stop paying tithing, the amount of tithing money now compared to their stock dividend yield and compound interest is like negligible.
Yeah.
Like
They don't get any.
people could stop paying right now that they wouldn't notice.
No, they wouldn't. Unfortunately,
wouldn't
it makes
notice.
a difference. Yeah.
Yeah. And because they have real estate in multiple countries too, they can just shovel money around that way.
What really
Yeah.
hurts is members leaving. Honestly, I mean, that's the only capital the church can't live without is members, is people. If people leave, that hurts. I mean, that's why we're hearing them crying about women leaving right now, right? Even though they only need theoretically men, but it's kind of a sausage fest if there are no women or young people, right? That's why they're crying out so loud. On the one hand, they're like, oh, they're all leaving. But of course, on the other hand, they have to say, we're growing. So what is it now? What is the real problem? Nobody knows. I mean, we do, but they don't want to address it. But that's the real capital they need. They're nothing without the members, because then they cannot do anything with the money.
Well, exactly. And I mean, this is what I brought this up a few months ago on like we did like Tuesdays with Tim, I think it was, on like, where is the church going? And we talked a bit about all this, and I brought this up then, and I'm going to say it again. If I was in charge of like church marketing or whatever, the crying about the people leaving wouldn't matter, because I mean, people in the West in general are leaving Christianity.
Yep.
So
and
they, you know,
clubs and groups. People are not joining things very much.
well,
Yeah.
exactly. Clubs, groups, Christianity, whatever it is, religious, non-religious, people just aren't joining. Africa, the Middle East, and parts of Southeast Asia, I would throw everything into and say, if you want to leave, get out. Like, I would do the double down route because one,
So yeah,
it's
Dave,
it's
leave your
consistent.
contact information in the bottom so that any members of the Strength in the Church committee or the church wants to come and contact you so they can hire you.
If you're gonna run a cult, can you at least do it correctly?
Nickels worth of
Like,
advice.
seriously, like,
We'll vote
let
you
the-
in.
They're trying pretty hard.
let the progmos leave, let all the liberals leave, because then you just have the conservative members who will do whatever you tell them to, and then you focus on other nations and the third world areas, and you're set for life.
But I think
Power of scale.
Oaks is going into this direction. I think you're totally onto it, but I think they actually are going in this direction. They don't care for the liberals, for the ones they're kind of on the edge, because again, they're on the edge. So why would you exactly invest into members that are struggling, right? You invest in those who
No.
are 100% in, they're not doubting, you're more scared that those would leave.
They're
It's
separating.
almost like
the wheat
actually
from the
with
chaff.
Oaks doing the age things and stuff. I'm thinking I'm channeling Randy Watt's connection to God here because Randy receives a lot of information or a lot of revelation. Oaks and everybody at some point they're going to come out with 10 children, instant celestial kingdom. Start young,
Yeah.
spit out a lot. Double digits gets you into the celestial kingdom.
Yeah.
Double digit children.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
easier than sending out missionaries to try to get baptisms.
Well, and even if you think about it, until not too recently, that was the only way. I mean, even Islam, even Christianity, you grow by birth, not by converts. I mean, the Mormon Church is the same thing. We have the hardest time keeping converts, right? We grow by giving birth, and mostly this was Utah, right? It wasn't the outside of Utah. It was not never Germany or Europe. But even then, the church constant, the numbers in Germany is only by birth, not by converts. We're not really good, honestly. If you think about it, we are a missionary church, but we're really shitty at doing good missionary work because we get them baptized, they stay maybe for 6 months, 9 months, a year, and then we leave. We like 90% leave. We can't keep them. Nobody's staying. You have to indoctrinate people, and that's children.
Yeah. So to be more specific, Africa does have 54 countries. The church is thriving in almost all of them, with the exception of Burkina Faso. I think
I'm
Mali.
glad somebody on this
and
program
Rwanda.
knows that, Dave.
On my Facebook, most of my followers are actually from Africa. And I have a lot of members on my Diamond Dave Facebook page that I've actually talked to that are in Mozambique, Morocco, South Africa, Nigeria. The Nigerian ones have a lot to say about the actual persecution of Christians going on, by the way. There's Nigeria, the Democratic Republic of Congo, and like a couple others that are the main ones. But yeah, I mean, Africa is very diverse, but the church is focusing on Africa in general because of cultural reasons, because of legal reasons. Jay brought up gold. That actually is also true, because the church is invested in, I forget the name of the company, but they're mining in Congo. So yeah, I mean, there's that aspect too.
But I think the church will not be successful in the long run because they will make the same mistake they did with South America, because they will not give up leadership. They will not have African leadership. And I know South America, Mexico, Brazil, they would keep asking, when will we have ours in leadership? And still, watch at the 12. They're white. They're mostly white men and from Utah. And that's the same in Europe. If you don't really see yourself at some point getting into representation in your organization, it will kind of disinfect you, where you're like, okay, I think we're just your stepchildren. I mean, even in Europe, we had that feeling all the time. They wouldn't put money into Europe. We pay and then less comes back, right? I mean, that's how the Mormon church works, because it's literally a hierarchy. You only have Utah. So we put money into Utah and then we get less back. We had way worse activities because we were not supposed to spend money. And then you see in Utah what they're doing, the camps. And even when I moved here, I'm like, wow, this is a way different church, even though we are a global church. And I can predict this is going to be the same in Africa. They will not give up their power and leadership to other countries. They never have, they never will. And that will
I think it's going to collapse, but I think it's going to be a sudden burst. From what I'm hearing, I think it's not so much a representation thing, but Tim in the comments and I have had long conversations about this, because he and I, like, we know a lot of people in Africa. We talk with a lot of people in Africa on Facebook. And generally speaking, both of our interactions throughout the different countries is people join, they ask us for jobs, they go to the church, they ask them for jobs, they don't get it, they collapse. So they don't even, so many of them don't even stay in long enough to want the representation, assuming people care about representation. And I don't know enough to say what that is with the African regions. I know here in Mongolia and other Asian countries I've been to, like India, representation just isn't a thought. Like it just doesn't matter. Like if it works kind of a thing. It's less about who's in charge and what you can get out of it.
If you think about it, once the Mormons figured out there were no Quakers on the moon, they decided to go into Africa and let.
Time out, guys. These points you're making are incredible. Thank you. But we seem to have taken an exit off the freeway about the subject at hand.
Oh, yeah.
So I have one more
another thing.
I have one more clip I want to play, and then let's talk about what we can do to lessen this disgusting plague within the church. And
out for the victims. I'm just realizing what you said. No. 6 for the name of the church, 6 for Wade. Where are the 6 for the 12 for the victims?
It was non-existent.
That's telling. There's no voice for the victims in that room, other than, I guess, the stake president. I don't know.
I don't know either.
Okay. So was there discussion of the well-being of the victims that you remember?
Not that I recall.
Oh my goodness.
I never heard anything about them being counseled either by church authority or by outside counsel. They had never been approached or talked to, or I had never heard that any of that happened. It was kind of just, okay, the excommunication took place. It's over and done with. That's it.
So there's 15 men who know that possibly multiple children, girls, have been sexually abused. There's pretty much zero discussion about the well-being of the girls.
Yes.
And it's all about the well-being of the church counterbalanced with the well-being of the perpetrator.
Right.
I'm just stunned. And then add to that what we know about the Kurt McConkie bishop and stake president hotline for decades. What we know is that the script that the people who field those calls have had historically are questions around only the legal liability of the church, no questions about the welfare of the victims. It's all about, like, did they have a church calling? Did the abuse happen on church property? How much do people know? Have the police been contacted? And then, of course, the advice is don't contact the police, keep this quiet.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I guess I'm saying the Mormon bishop hotline, abuse hotline, fielded by lawyers in Kurt McConkie, the priorities of that, which is to protect the good name of the church and the legal liability of the church, with zero discussion of the well-being of the victim, maps perfectly to the priorities of the disciplinary council that you were a part of.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, that's about right.
And even the council is a farce. I asked my husband, and he was a high councilman once, and I was like, so is it truly you have 6 people, kind of for the person that's whatever it is, right? And then 6 against it? And he's like, no, not really. Because like he kind of said, it's almost like memorized. You know exactly what's expected of you to say. I think later in the interview, he even says, like, everybody was like, yeah, he's fine. Yeah, I think he was well represented. And everybody kind of said the same thing. It's not really a court where you have, like, you know, like two parties and then the stake president is the judge in Zion. It's kind of like whatever the stake president has in mind will go through. You literally could only have this guy sitting there. The rest is just kind of playing along, you know. Again, sausage fest is the name of the game.
There are a few things that we have tried to tell people, those who may be, you know, kind of new to listening about this. One of them is, if you suspect anything, if you see anything that seems a little bit sus to you, do not call your church leaders. Do not call the bishop or the stake president. Call the freaking police. That way something can get done. If Wade Christofferson hadn't been caught the way he was this last time, and he's sitting in prison even as we speak, if he hadn't have been caught, do you think he would have gone to prison? If he was caught by the father of the girl he was assaulting.
Yes.
She was a 4-year-old in the closet of the bathroom on the phone with Wade Christofferson, showing him her private parts because he asked her to, through the little codes they had.
Yep.
And if he hadn't been caught by the dad, I shudder to think how many more kids would have been abused. Don't go to your church leaders. Go to the police and floodlit.org.
Yeah. And
Tim,
even
you want on the show?
Right? It was his daughter's slumber party.
Yeah, the first one was his daughter's slumber party. 14-year-olds at a slumber party.
Yeah.
I mean, there's that, but also, like, what could have happened to her? Like, had that communication gone on? Because I have not been a policeman like Randy Watts, but I've seen enough crime TV of, like, you know, Dateline, and I've seen enough FBI files to know that usually when such communication starts, there usually ends with a body being found somewhere.
Yeah.
I'm not an expert, but, you know, I'll let Randy respond to that. But that's my anecdotal observation of, you know, having too much time on my hands and watching crime TV. Usually when that communication starts, it ends very badly.
You're right. There's no happy ending. No pun intended. There's no happy ending to a situation like this. The best that you can hope for is that the perpetrator goes away to jail or unalives himself, and that the victim, these poor victims, get therapy, get help, so that they can reintegrate themselves into society in a normal fashion, if that's even possible. I know it will scar them for life, but hopefully they get therapy, they get help, and they don't end up in a gutter somewhere.
What's really frustrating, I had a friend from Germany, she's an ex-Mormon as well, and her husband was sexually abused as a boy, and her brother, and they went obviously later in life to the police though when they left the church. And the German police said that their experience with the Mormon church is like, they're like, it's a big fat junk of secrecy. He's like, I don't want to take away your hope, but he's like, whenever we try to talk to one of your guys' bishops, they will always say, it's fine, it's handled. Nobody wants to talk about it. All of the members are afraid to talk to the police. So, and that's freaking Germany. And they're like, nobody talks to us. Your church doesn't talk to us and the police.
What do you think about that, Tim, having gone on a mission to Germany?
Well, I was there before the hotline. So
you were there before the telephone.
Yeah, I was there before the telephone.
Tim watched as Brigham Young took over the church.
That's right. That's right. I was there on August 8th, 1844. Yeah. You guys, you're bringing up some really good points. The church is only growing through birth, not converts, because they can't keep them. It's a good point, Jessica. And they've got to do something about this problem. And it is the number one weakness of the church right now. The number one weakness they have is essay. And the more people that tell their stories, come online, create a podcast, and tell your story, the
And the
more
covering
effective
up
will
of essay.
And the covering up of the essay. That's right.
That's right.
That's right. We
And if you
need everybody out there. If you've ever been essayed by the church, you need to create a YouTube, a TikTok, whatever channel, and tell your story. Tell your story.
And I just thought about it, Tim, when you said that, which I mentioned with the converts. Also, I think you have a harder time keeping a convert shut mouth if something happens, and you will have a harder time abusing a convert. You know what I mean? Like if you have indoctrinated children into being naive and forgiving, I think those members are way better, easier victims than converts.
Yep.
And so that point is our first point, and something that can eliminate a lot is keep your eyes open, call the police, not the church. Another
That's right.
thing, and I'm sure you guys agree with this. Why in the hell don't we have background checks
Yeah.
for everybody who's in a leadership position? Why don't we have background checks?
Because, Randy, that would make sense. And since we're on the internet, you should know that we don't do that here.
Ain't it true? Yeah.
Yeah.
That would weed out a lot of people, although knowing the church, I'll call it a church, knowing this organization, they would probably do the background checks, get something negative, and mark it off, expunge it.
They'd
Put
hide
them in
it.
anyway.
No,
Fill the gaps.
Exactly.
They can't hide it if it's on a Megan's Law website.
Yeah.
That's true. But I'm just saying, if they could, they would. Tim, you
If
know
they could,
that.
well, they do. So I mean, yeah, they would, they could,
No.
they do, they should.
I would also recommend if you're an active member and something like this happened to you, at least change the ward. Go somewhere else with your children. Find a better ward if you can't leave the church. Because think about it. If you would know this from, let's say your kid is going to a tennis club, for hell sure nobody would go back to that tennis club. So why are you doing this with your church? Don't go back to where you were harmed. And if you can't leave the church altogether, leave at least the ward.
I was talking to this apologist, Robert Gurr, about it, and he hit me up with, it happens in businesses, and it happens in corporations, and it happens at school, and I says, we're not talking about that. We're talking about your church. Your church.
Well, and I do get an email and we're not even talking about abuse. If some shit goes down in my school, every parent gets an email. We just wanted to tell you this was a topic in school. If it was something, trickier or sexual, whatever, right? The Mormon Church doesn't do that. Where was that email warning that word about Wade Christofferson? Where is the transparency? I don't give a fuck if other organizations have the same problem. At least some of them are better in being more transparent. And also, when people say that, I hear this too from members. I'm also a tennis club doesn't claim that freaking God is on the top of their organization. So your God is nothing worth if he does do as little as a tennis club.
Yep.
Yeah. And
plus, if your friend jumps off the bridge, you're not supposed to jump off the bridge. That's
Exactly.
what my mom said.
Exactly.
My mama told me.
Wait. If you jump off the bridge, I can't jump with you?
You're supposed to think for yourself. That's what, Jim, you're supposed to tell your friend.
Okay.
It's a
friend.
Okay.
Well, it's not even an accurate comparison, because like Jessica brought up, like no business claims to like have a repentance process or atonement. Also, that business will throw you under the bus.
Or that the business is speaking in the name of God.
Yes.
Yeah, the businesses don't do that. I worked at Wells Fargo, and just a quick anecdote here. There was a guy who made a mistake. He counted money, and his till, he was a cashier, his till was $2,000 short. He was suspended and terminated.
Yeah.
All the money was there. We had multiple bankers, including myself, go and verify it. but because he made a glitch in the system that showed it was 2000, he can never work at a bank again because he ran one stack of 20s. He ran it twice accidentally while talking to a customer. That one mistake, an innocent mistake, he can never work at a bank again, ever.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and also it's
So
pretending.
banks need to develop the repentance process, is what you're saying, Dave.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, well, if that's the case, I'm gonna go back to working at a bank because
And then
well,
we
and
also
Wells Fargo and these other businesses do not claim to be the
Exactly.
restored Church of Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Of course, child SA is not exclusive to the LDS Church, but the LDS Church is the one that claims they're representing Christ.
I want to give a shout out to Monroe, Louisiana. Chuck Hunt watching. He's connected to Jessica and also Chanel Achenbach. Chanel Achenbach's birthday just happened. Her birthday party. Happy
Yay.
birthday to Chanel.
Happy birthday.
So anyhow,
Happy birthday.
thanks, Chuck, for watching.
And what's the third thing that we can do to lessen this situation, in my opinion, and you let me know what you think, is how about some training? If you're called to be a primary teacher or a Sunday school teacher or anything that deals with youth, how about the training? The shoulds, the shouldn'ts. It doesn't seem like it should be necessary, but obviously it's very necessary. But do we have any training? Not one mother humping bit of training.
but the other argument is also, I would say, you don't even have
wait. They do show them like a 10-minute video.
Yeah, there
Of what?
Cub Scouts too.
I don't know.
did
I've
it.
never seen it, but
I have in Cub Scouts. I had to watch the face-to-face videos. Yeah.
Oh, you mean like warning the kids?
No, you watch a video where you have even a questionnaire afterwards, and there are scenarios where you can see like a Cub Scout leader leaving with a boy, and then the question is like, should you say something to your church leader? Should you say something or do something? It's the most obvious things where everybody's, of course, you should say something. But it's like, I think it was from the Boy Scouts of America, maybe. But I know we as members, like in Cub Scouts, we had to watch, they're called face-to-face videos. And then we had a questionnaire afterwards that we have to do. I was always wondering, what do you do if you fail those questionnaires?
Well, let's get it into the ward rather than just the Cub Scouts. Get it into
Those
the ward
questions
and
are set up so you cannot possibly fail.
Pretty much,
exactly. Which is a problem. Even businesses do that outside of work. What should you do if you see domestic violence?
Exactly.
Should you go back to work, go to lunch, jump out a window, or tell your manager? Like, come on.
Yes.
Right.
But to your point, Randy, I think even we would misplace again if we would teach primary teachers, because the problem is not primary teacher, because 90% are women, and women are not the problem in the Mormon Church. It's men. So where are the young men's presidency taught about, boys and abuse and seeing when another man is going away with a boy or whatever happens? What is with the bishopric? Start at least there. They having those sexual interviews and being, let's say, working in a bank. And then on Sundays, nilly-vanilly, they're having a sexual interview with, what is it now, 11 and up children. Yeah. They're not professionals in any way. Why don't they stick to the spiritual? Be a spiritual leader and you can ask spiritual question. And that's where it ends.
Yeah. A bishop should never be in an interview with an 11-year-old boy, girl.
Yeah.
Bring the
Period.
It is ridiculous to talk to a little girl about a subject she doesn't even know about.
And even at the end of my time, I was asking and nobody could ever answer. I was like, why is not the Relief Society president having interviews with the girls at least? That could be an option. You don't need the priesthood to have those interviews. I don't see a necessity for the priesthood. So why at least cannot the Relief Society president, since we sometimes claim, right, she's kind of the other side of the bishopric, why is she not doing interviews with at least the girls? She couldn't ask the same question, then report to the bishop, and at least we have the separation of the genders in that age group.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah, that's a pretty solid idea. I never understood the point of those interviews. It feels like those interviews, and I could be dead wrong, but like some of those questions, especially asking kids that, like the sexual questions, seems like it's intentionally designed to groom kids.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, do
Yes.
you watch porn? I mean, had I been asked that when, you know, at 10, I think it was 8 or 10, my parents were like, don't watch porn. I didn't know what it was, so I
That's
got
right.
on the internet, and imagine my surprise as to what I found when I looked it up. So
yeah, or even, which is kind of, I feel like as bad as the masturbation, because most of the time a 10, 11-year-old hasn't even heard the word. So now you're putting a new word in their mind without explanation, them not knowing, and maybe they're just saying yes because they're kind of like, is that what he wants to hear? It's just right and left and top and bottom. It's abuse and misuse of a position of power. We're like, why do you even ask that word? As a child cannot sexually masturbate. They're just touching themselves because they're exploring. That's not masturbation. They don't even have that connection.
So Randy talked about things the church should do, and we're going to talk now for a little bit, things that everybody can do. People that are viewers, people that whatever. Go to floodlit.com, .org. Go spread the news of the reports that they do. If you have a friend that has been abused, they can report an abuser, and you can do things. And then here's for Floodlit recent Mormon sexual abuse news. And here's more information about Wade Christofferson. And you can go here. There's a wealth of information. And, you know, there's a lot of people have stories. John DeLynn mentioned that he gets 1,000 requests, and most of them are abuse stories. And some of them he doesn't want to put on because he can't corroborate their stories or verify. You can go on Floodlit and present your story, and they can do all the corroboration and the comparing and stuff like that. So
there was just one this week, the squatty potty guy.
Yeah.
Kitty porn on his computer.
Yep.
I mean, what's wrong
I
with these
saw
people?
that, and I live in Mongolia. That's wild.
I saw it as a news story before I saw it on anywhere else, on Facebook or anywhere else. I saw it as a news story.
Yeah,
on
I
Google.
saw it on a news story. It was like national news that like popped up in my feed, and I'm like, why? First of all, this is messed up. Second of all, holy shit. Like, I normally don't see American news like at all. I have to dig for it. So that's kind of wild to me.
I love that. First is it's messed up. Second, holy shit.
Yeah. Great response. Great response. That's really all we have to say to that.
And Gene, thank you for putting up that Floodlit information.
Thank you, Gene.
That's a great addition.
But also Floodlit, what I love about Floodlit is truly they're not just collecting stories or claims. They always have links to the like newspaper article or a video. They're not nilly-vanilly putting out stories, right? They're really trying to dig in, have some research, and most of those claims are actually already been to court. So that's why Floodlit is so legit. They're really trying to be like really to the point and not, you know, because I mean, stories are circulating and I'm not saying people make it up, but it's sometimes hard. Even like John said, it's hard then to be the judge. So they're really trying to stay with the facts. So you don't have to believe us, but look through Floodlit. They have facts, they have the receipts.
Yeah, and you can do stuff on a shoestring budget and fight against a $500 billion corporate Mormon church.
Exactly.
Don't worry about the money. The money's really not that important.
That's what I'm saying.
I know John was really hung up on that. We have people who can tell stories.
Yeah.
There are more people out there telling stories. You know,
shining the light
the
of
less
truth.
that can be ignored. Yes.
Okay, go ahead, Randy.
Anyone who disputes that it's a problem in Utah, especially with the LDS, floodlit.org has a heat map that shows you where the most assaults occur.
Yep.
Take a look at that sometime. Show your objectors that map and see what they have to say.
So we had a child psychologist in our ward in San Antonio. His last name was Kimball. I don't remember the first name. It doesn't matter. And he abused a girl outside of church, but he also worked for the church in some cases. And so that was my first check. So I went to Floodlit when I, I was still like hesitant, like how legit is it? So I went on the map because it was already in the news. The guy, I mean, he killed himself, so it's all out there. And there was a dot in San Antonio. It was that guy, the news article I saw. So they're fast, which I find incredibly like how fast they respond. They check their stories. And to me, that was just like, I wanted to check it for myself, right? And I think everybody has the right to do the same. So do it up front. If you know a case, go on the map, see if they have your case. And maybe if not, then tell them, do a little link and say, hey, I know a new case or whatever.
Yeah.
But
I sent them a case.
It's not just Utah. They're really pretty good on point everywhere. So I was impressed with that as well.
I sent them 2 cases. One was too old that they couldn't find anything about it, but the other one was pretty recent and they found it.
Good going.
Yeah.
Well, we have had an incredible discussion. We're going on over 2 hours. So.
I have an announcement to make, if I may.
Oh, do tell.
That
congratulations, Tim's getting married. No, go ahead. I'm just kidding.
If Facebook has suspended my account, I don't know for how long. I just found out this morning. So I cannot be found on Facebook, but I can be found on X, Twitter.
Do you know for what?
Go
ahead. From a high level, Tim commented on some sort of Zionist situation.
Well, all week long, I've been getting messages that they're reviewing my account and they're finding stuff that's 2 years old. None of this is a post that I made. They are things that I shared. Not one of these things I made.
Oh, I see. Wow, that's weird.
Oh, that's the Facebook's auto thing.
Okay, so they've been going back.
Talk to Dave. Maybe Dave has some tips.
That's what I want to do.
Your name.
And the after.
Yeah, don't share shit. Like that's my thing.
Yeah.
Well,
like I don't share much at all because like Facebook will like hit the person that posted it and anyone that shared it if it.
And let's thank Susan for her comment and
thank you, Susan.
And say Susan. Sorry to her. We can apologize for the first presidency of the church because
we're better than them.
Because we're better than them. That's right.
And it's sadly a common story.
Oh, that's sad, Susan.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
That it happened to you, Susan.
It is.
Yeah.
That's almost like abuse after abuse, right? Like it's re-traumatizing those people with those actions.
They just don't care. They just do not care.
No, follow the money.
It's
and
funny,
even as close as
Christ,
it is,
and they're like the very least Christian people sometimes, the way they act as a corporation, as a corporate board.
Yep.
And so that is a problem.
It is.
How about that, Randy, for a suggestion? If you're going to talk in the name of Christ, then behave.
How about this? How about this? If you're going to have a corporate board, could you act like a normal corporation would?
Right.
Yeah. Now you're asking too much.
Yeah, because normal corporations are at least more responsible to their customers in the civic.
Well, and they also have one more power move. They can fire shitty people. The Mormon Church never fires.
No.
Because apostle is good for life. Nothing
good for life. They're all sycophants.
Eternal sycophants. They're eternally shitty people, Jessica. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Tim is saying I ask too much. Have you seen my hair? I am clearly high maintenance. Okay. Sorry, I have standards.
My favorite song is One Tin Soldier. And the verse, as I've said many times, says, do it in the name of heaven. You can
be justified
in the end.
There you go.
And so many actually practice that.
Yeah.
It sucks. But anyway, I don't know if you all have other things you want to say. If not, we are so grateful to all the listeners for coming in and taking part in the show. We appreciate you greatly. And,
you guys are doing good work out there. Now create your own podcast and tell your story.
Yep. Share the video. It doesn't have to be live, because it'll stay online. Let people know. And you know what? We are the Salt Lake Expositor, and our goal is to make a difference. And hopefully we'll be able to do that.
With Floodlit, we can shine the light of truth on the harms that the Mormon Church is doing.
Yes.
Indeed. Indeed.
Exactly.
Exposing them.
Well, Gene, you want to take us out?
Yes. So everybody, thanks for watching. It's March. March
1st.
is on.
Oh.
2 months
out for
of
the
the year
15th.
have passed already. That's 16% of the whole year. Already gone.
Good to know.
Good to know.
And Chuck Hunt is trying to join. Let's invite Chuck to say hi, and then we can talk to you more, Chuck, in the after show. Oh, sorry, Randy, I picked him. Thanks, Chuck.
Hi, Chuck.
I'm Chuck Hunt from Monroe, Louisiana. How are you all doing?
I can't hear you.
Tim, don't worry about it, Tim.
Okay.
Don't worry about
I
Tim.
hear you. I hear you.
Go off Tim and come back in.
Okay.
So thanks, Chuck, for coming in, and tell us about Monroe, Louisiana.
I'm from Monroe, Louisiana. I'm in the upper part of the state. I'm in northeast Louisiana. I'm close to Arkansas. I'm not near New Orleans. That's at the bottom part of the state. That's where all those Catholics are in the bottom part of the state, majority Catholic. I'm a more Protestant area up here. We have Catholics, and there's some of your LDS meeting places here in Monroe as well, and Western Monroe across the river from me. But I'm close to Arkansas, and I was born and raised Baptist. I'm not LDS, but never have been in it. But I know some people who have been members in the past, and I hear their stories, and I'm hearing you all's stories. It's not just in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It's happening in Catholicism. I was born and raised in the Black Baptist tradition, as you all can see. And like I said, I hope I'm not a curse to your broadcast. I know about the thing about the curse that you all, but I joke about that, and that's something to talk about. 1978, with the blacks being in priesthood, the same year that the people drunk the cyanide Kool-Aid in 1978 in Guyana, Jim Jones.
Right.
Yeah.
Same year.
Chuck, are you aware of the recent story where a historically black college awarded or posted Joseph
Morehouse
Smith's
College?
portrait?
Yes. Yeah.
He knows.
And they're not happy about it. Yeah, that's Morehouse College, Dr. Martin King's alma mater.
Yeah, we could have covered that too, but we'll do it next week, I think. We'll include
it. And the thing about it, I can see him feeling a certain way about that, because it's the same. Dr. Martin King graduated from this all black male HBCU, and the thing about it, was one of your people, your leaders of the church made remarks about Dr. Martin King and the civil rights movement. My father was in the civil rights movement in the 60s, and Ezra Benson called him a communist and a Marxist. Called Dr. King that, and my father was in the civil rights movement in his hometown of Toledo, Louisiana. And I told Dad, we were talking about, he remembers Ezra Benson from the Eisenhower administration, Secretary of Agriculture, and I know he ended up becoming you all's president. And him and all those other guys, those people like Mark Peterson and all those, Bruce McConkie and all them, making those kind of remarks, you feel a certain way about that. And it's not just in there. You know what happened? You're white faith, but what happened? People, these black faiths with the men being in control, they started because they wanted to follow the thing of white supremacy, of the the men being in control, women not having leadership positions. And as I want to let you all know, I can speak as a person who is, you can clearly see, is African American. Yeah.
You know what the real curse is? Being as pale as we are. That's the real curse.
It's the curse.
And by the way, you've been doing your homework.
Chuck, I'm amazed at the name dropping. All the LDS leaders.
I've been in Salt Lake City. I've been in Salt Lake City to visit what happened. I was affiliated with the Unitarian. I've been affiliated with the Unitarian Universalist faith. Had the UUA had their national, their General Assembly. That's the convention, the big convention. Had in Salt Lake City in 2009, and that was my first time ever flying. And flying on a plane, I went to Salt Lake City in 2009 for General Assembly at the Salt Palace Convention Center. And I went around Temple Square, and don't get me wrong, the people were very nice and all, but it was kind of like some out of space movie. And I even went inside the LDS General Conference Center. I saw where the choir performed. Yeah, I love the choir, but I started looking at it, and I started looking at the behaviors, because UUA is kind of they say progressive faith, but it's had its problems as well. And but what happened? I went there. I had a great time in Salt Lake City. But when I looked around, I started kind of thinking about all these type things.
Yeah.
Well, we are really glad that you came on to the show, Chuck.
Thank you for blessing us with your presence today. I really
Oh yeah, it's always
appreciate
great conversing with you all and learning about your faith. Like I said, I love history anyway.
Yeah.
Oh,
Hey,
here,
right.
I'm going to
Sunday at
send you a
3 o'clock.
Facebook friend request because I saw you on
3
Facebook.
o'clock
And so
our time.
we'll
Oh,
connect
that
that
would be
week.
great.
And I'll send you links sometimes to the shows if I can remember. I only have 4,000 Facebook friends. Sometimes it's kind of hard to keep track of them all.
I can only imagine. Someone had to talk me into it.
Is there
You're right
anyone
about that.
here? Is there anyone
Huh?
here? Because Chuck brought this up. He said he enjoys hearing about our faith. Is anyone here on this panel, other than me, actually religious still?
I believe in
consider
Zeus.
myself spiritual, but not religious.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm the only religious person here. Okay.
Are you only
That was interesting. That was an interesting point that Chuck brought up because he said that, and I'm like, wait a minute. I've been on this podcast so many times. I don't even know what religion these people are. I just come here and hang out.
Yeah. What happened? A lot of them
I
meet these
respect
faiths.
people's beliefs, but I also respect my ability or my desire to have people also use rational thinking. And they can work together a little bit, right? There's something happens. Randy's been affected by things. Tim's had spiritual experiences.
Yeah.
Jessica, did you have spiritual experiences where you were a member of the church sometimes?
I was more the grounded member.
Yeah, the grounded
Okay.
member, but human interaction sometimes.
Yeah.
Like I'm getting a vibe from Chuck, like we're brothers.
Intuitions. I would call it intuition.
Hey, Chuck,
okay.
have you seen the Peabody Hotel?
He said, what about Peabody Hotel?
Have you ever been to the Peabody in Memphis?
Oh yeah, I've seen what the ducks. I've been to Peabody Man, been on Bill Street. Yes.
I used to run that hotel.
Yeah. I've been to a
technically-
Sun Studio. Yeah, where Elvis Presley and all those people recorded. And I've been to all those places. My father's a musician. He went to Grambling State University. Played
Randy,
trumpet.
was that the late 90s or the early
Wow.
2000s?
Yeah, that was the late 90s when I, 90, I think 91 is when I went over.
Okay, I was in high school there. I came out of high school in 1993. I graduated from a Catholic high school here in Monroe, and it's a funny thing. I'm not Catholic, but in my graduating class in 1993, there were only 5 blacks in my graduating class because, what happened in this area? It's not a lot of you have Catholic churches here and all, but it's a lot of Protestants in my area. Like I said, the Catholics are down in South Louisiana, French-speaking people.
Yeah,
Right on, brother.
Yeah, that's why we call parishes, because we're French state with Catholic influence.
So
Like
Chuck,
you all
you
have
can still
counties.
hang out. I'm gonna say goodbye to the audience, and if anybody, I'll add one more time. If somebody wants to come on, and if Songs wants to come on in the after show, and other people, and say hi to Chuck and others while we're here.
Yeah, I enjoyed conversing with you. I didn't do anything today. Yeah.
yes.
And
Off from work.
you could ask almost any question in history, and Tim was a kid during that time.
I was
You ask Tim,
And I'm 50 years old. I'll be 51 later on this year. That's what I was saying. That's something I think I was born 1975, 3 years before the priesthood. They opened the priesthood.
Oh, yeah.
for
I was born in
black men.
1975. Not.
Ezra Benson ran and attempted to run for office with George Wallace. Oh yeah, I heard about all these things. Yeah, and the present president, Dolan Oaks. He was up for the U.S. Supreme Court under Gerald Ford. But what happened? I could see why they didn't select him. I ended up getting John Paul Stevens, and that people didn't know anything about your faith, and just like with John Kennedy being the first Catholic president, that was something that was that's faith. The presidency was made up of people from the Protestants, and you think about those who are Masons, and in the Catholic Church they're against the Masons, and that was kind of breaking that thing there, because think about George Washington and all these others. You think about how Washington D.C. was built, and they didn't want to, having a Catholic in there, and they're like, wait a minute, this doesn't look right.
Yeah,
it wasn't anti-religious, but the freedom of religion was to let people believe on their own away from government. Government was supposed to be government was just supposed to be
Separation.
protected from anybody who wants to be religious. Because if you say, okay, we're now a Christian nation and stuff like that, well, then 10 years from now, we could be a Muslim nation, or 10 years after that, we could be, whatever anybody says. And so we're trying to be a nation that lets everybody believe and keep it out of the government. Let's have a level playing field for everybody's beliefs so that we all can get along.
Absolutely.
So,
That's what it's all about.
Thanks, Jessica. Thanks, Diamond. Thanks, Randy. Thanks, Tim.
You're welcome.
And,